Could one person actually run a $1 billion company? Sam Altman seems to think so. A couple years back, he said his group chat of tech CEO friends had an actual betting pool for when it would happen, which sounds ridiculous. A $1 billion company needs engineers, salespeople, marketing, customer service, finance, operations, people to manage all those people. One person can't possibly do all that. Except something interesting is starting to happen. A company with reportedly one founder and 0 employees just raised money at a $250 million valuation. Another company with exactly 2 employees generated more than $400 million in revenue last year. Neither one proves Altman right just yet. Honestly, when you look closely at how these two companies actually work, the story gets a little bit messier than the headline, but considerably more interesting. So let's dig in. How much of a modern company can one person genuinely run right now? And can one person actually build a $1 billion company? Here's our founder. One person, one laptop, and one idea. We'll give him something most real entrepreneurs don't start with: enough money to pay for whatever software and services he actually needs. What he doesn't get is employees. That's the entire rule. Let's see how far he gets anyway. First problem: somebody has to actually build the thing he's selling. 5 years ago, if our founder couldn't write software himself, the experiment probably ends right here. Today, AI can write code, debug it, build interfaces, test it, and increasingly work through longer stretches of development with less handholding. But notice what's actually going on behind that sentence. The AI isn't doing this alone in a vacuum. It's running on cloud infrastructure our founder is renting by the month. The database is a service he's paying for. The deployment pipeline is somebody else's product. None of that is AI performing labor. It's AI operating tools that used to require specialized personnel to even set up. A 2026 case study followed one experienced engineer at a real company who was handed work originally scoped for a 4-person team. He ran 4 AI agents and finished in half the planned time. And that's just one case. But it's a useful data point for what one person's actual ceiling looks like right now. So, Department 1, Product and Engineering. Population: 1 human, several AI agents, and a stack of purchased infrastructure doing a lot of the heavy lifting. But building something alone isn't a business. Somebody has to find customers. And this is normally one of the hardest parts. Marketing, sales, maybe design. Look at what's already available to buy or delegate: market research, competitor analysis, campaign drafts, images, landing pages, personalized outreach. None of those capabilities alone replaces a marketing department. What actually changes is that our founder stops personally performing every task. They can start directing instead of doing. Microsoft has a name for this: the agent boss. Their 2025 Work Trend Index, 31,000 workers across 31 countries, found that 46% of leaders already say their organizations use agents to fully automate at least some workflows. Their research describes people increasingly building, assigning to, and managing AI agents the way managers coordinate people today. Our founder isn't writing every ad anymore. He's deciding what the ad needs to accomplish. He's not researching every competitor himself. He's deciding which ones are actually worth understanding. He's turning into the CEO of a company whose staff happens to be software, plus a handful of paid tools doing the parts that aren't really labor so much as infrastructure. Okay, let's take a look at customer support, finance, and operations. Support: AI answers routine questions and escalates the weird stuff to a human. But the knowledge base it's drawing from, the ticketing system routing the escalation, that's purchased software, not something the AI conjured on its own. Finance: AI categorizes spending, builds forecasts, flags anomalies, though a real accountant stays involved anywhere one's legally required because purchase service and regulatory requirement are different things, and no amount of automation changes who's liable if it's wrong. Operations: scheduling, documentation, routing, follow up. Increasingly automated, rarely fully unsupervised, and usually running on top of 3 or 4 tools our founder is paying a monthly fee for. Add it all up, and the one-person company doesn't look nearly as empty as it should. There's still exactly one person in the building, but surrounding him is something businesses never really had on demand before: capability that shows up without a hiring process or a background check or a training period. Microsoft calls this intelligence on tap. Historically, if your company needed a new capability, you had three choices. You either learn it yourself, you hire somebody, or you pay another company to handle it entirely. What's changed isn't that a fourth option appeared, it's that the third option, buying capability instead of employing it, just got radically cheaper and more available to someone with no company behind them at all. So let's go back to those two companies from the opening, because this is where it gets interesting. Polsha is a real funding event. $30 million raised at a $250 million valuation, reported by multiple outlets that track startup funding. The one founder, zero employees framing comes from the founder himself in his own announcement, not something independently audited the way you'd expect for a company's financials. And a valuation isn't the same thing as a healthy business. Polsha's own product is, ironically, a platform meant to let other people run companies with AI. And by the account of a later, more skeptical review, most companies created on that platform don't stay active. Customer reviews have been rough. The revenue figure it advertises uses a looser calculation than a traditional recurring revenue number. None of that means the funding round is fake, and none of it erases what's real. The company reached a $250 million valuation with a headcount of 1. It just means one founder raised money at a big valuation and one founder built something durable and healthy are two different claims. And only the first one is solidly established here. MedV is a cleaner story, verified directly by the New York Times against real financials. $401 million in revenue in 2025, and it's tracking towards $1.8 billion this year. An actual two-person employee count, the founder and his brother. But 2 employees doesn't mean 2 people personally perform every task behind the $400 million in healthcare revenue. MedV doesn't employ the doctors who write prescriptions or the pharmacies that fill them. That entire regulated layer is handled by outside partners MedV pays for, not people it hired. Here's what both stories actually demonstrate. Once you look past the headline number, neither company is one person doing everything. They're both a tiny core team orchestrating an enormous amount of capability they don't personally employ. Some of it is AI, some of it is automation, some of it outside specialists and infrastructure they simply rent. And that's genuinely different than AI replaces employees. It's a small number of people who can now direct far more capability than they could ever personally hire. So back to our own experiment. Engineering, marketing, sales, support, finance, and operations. One founder, directing a genuinely surprising amount of capability he doesn't personally employ. $1 billion company solved? Not even close. Because now our founder has a completely different problem. He's the bottleneck. Every real decision eventually funnels back to one brain. What should we actually build? Which customer matters most? Is this answer even correct? Should we spend the money? Is this legal? Does the angry customer need an actual human on the phone right now? AI can generate 1,000 options. Somebody still has to know which one is good, and that responsibility doesn't delegate the way the task did. The more capability our founder adds, the more things there are for him to direct, verify, and ultimately answer for. And this is the part that gets lost in the fantasy of a company full of agents happily running itself while the founder's on a beach somewhere. Somebody still owns the outcome. Somebody still has to understand the business well enough to catch it when something's wrong. And managing 10 AI agents doesn't give you 10 brains. You still have one, which brings us back to Altman's bet. Could one person actually run a billion-dollar company? Maybe. Someday, for the right kind of business. Polsha and MedV are real evidence it's not pure fantasy anymore, even with everything messy about both of them. But a billion-dollar airline, a hospital, a company managing regulators and physical infrastructure across a dozen countries, one person still sounds close to impossible there, and probably will for a long time. But here's why the exact prediction matters less and what's actually happening beneath it. If AI and orchestrated capability only gets us 1/10 of the way to one person, no company, that's still enormous. A business that needed 100 people might need 20. One that needed 20 might need 5. One that needed 5 might become something a single person can actually do. The company of the future probably isn't the company with no people in it. It's the company with very few people controlling an enormous amount of capability they never had to hire. None of this really matters because of what it means for Sam Altman's friend group and their betting pool. It matters because of what it means for you. Almost everyone's got something they've thought about building that always felt slightly too big. A business, an app, a service, a piece of expertise they've never turned into something they actually own. Historically, that idea came with an intimidating list of everything else you'd need: who builds it, who sells it, who handles the customers, who has time for any of it. That list is getting shorter. And not because AI does everything, it doesn't. But this whole experiment just showed you exactly where it stops. Because you don't have to be good at everything anymore to begin. The real question was never whether AI eventually helps someone build $1 billion company alone. It's what becomes possible for one ordinary person when the things that used to require an entire company are suddenly available to rent, or delegate, or direct. If you enjoy this kind of thing, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one.